Welcome to Prunership Diaries. Today we have with us Shailaja Vishwanath. Shailaja is a blog and social media coach with over 13 years of blogging experience. Our website, Blogging and Social Media Simplified, aims to simplify the art of content creation down to easy to comprehend bites of information. Our intention is to help creators grow a loyal audience of engaged readers, clients, and customers while tapping into their passion. She conducts one on one coaching sessions, group calls, and webinars together with courses and ebooks to help people find that special spark and enjoy the work that they do. And I must say, I met Shailaja probably like 3 years ago. I think it was an indie blogger meet, and I guess we just exchanged greetings and cards. And I have been following her, I think, ever since 2017, if I'm not wrong, on her Facebook page. And Shailaja is the reason that I took to blogging with a completely different perspective in providing value to the end user and also to joyfully create content in a no stress fashion. And I am so honored today, to in fact be talking to her and also to share with you all the amazing work that she's been doing. And I so respect her for the fact that we all create content, and there are a lot of content creators out there, but just the joy of providing value to the end user and also to do it in a very organic way and an authentic way, it's something that I really resonate with. And I'm so happy to have Shailaja with me. So, Shailaja, thank you for being here. And I'm so honored to have you. And I'm just, waiting to have a wonderful conversation with you.
Thank you for having me here, Shweta. It's really an honor to be here. Thank you, and thank you for such a lovely introduction as well.
Thank you. And it's my pleasure. All right. So, without further ado, let's get started. Shailaja, what made you to choose English literature in your master's? And did you have any career prospects on your mind at that point in time?
I've always been very fascinated by the idea of English literature, poetry, and writing. I think the spark kind of got ignited in, say, I would say middle school when I started reading a lot. I think and I attribute that to my really voracious reading habit. And I thank my parents, my uncle, my cousins, who all had the steady stream of books coming into the house. So I just picked up books and started reading. And English was something that I just took to, and it was something that made me happy. And I am very fortunate to have a very supportive set of parents who never really advised me on, say, career goals, or they just let me choose what would make me happy. So I think that was a really very important part of deciding what I wanted to do. And to be very honest, I didn't really have a career goal in mind. I did think that if I were to ever take up a career sometime in the distant future, I would like to be a teacher. But it wasn't with that intention that I took up reading. In fact, when I took up English in my masters, my original intention was to continue studying. I wanted to do an MPhil and then follow it up with a PhD. Of course, life happened, but no regrets in that sense. So for me, language is this magical thing, and it's this creative spring, so to speak. And I find a lot of happiness in exploring that on a day to day basis.
Wow, that's wonderful. I so resonate with what you said. It's about the language. I think there's something in it, the poetry of it. I think it's very beautiful. I also want to know, I think at that point in time, after you finished graduation, you also got into teaching. So could you tell us how that started and how was your experience?
Sure. I got into teaching. Actually, I would say it's a very unconventional kind of teaching, right? I got into teaching students who are writing competitive exams like CAT or GMAT or the GRE or the TOEFL. So I was handling the verbal ability and the English section because I was fresh out of college. So I obviously didn't have any work experience to speak of, but obviously my command of the language was very strong. So I went in for this one of these training institutes. It's called Triumphant Institute of Management Education. They asked me to attend a demo class first and then give a demo class as well. That was the start of my teaching career, if I can put it that way. So, and I stuck with it for well over 5 years before I gave it up because I had my daughter. So yes, yeah.
All right. And I gather that, you've had certain experiences in pertaining to, you worked in companies as a consultant, freelancer, subject matter expert, a writer and editor as well. So what was your experience and learnings from each of these, your engagements with these companies? And also, I mean, I know you were creating content and modules. So was it like traditional form of writing? So how was your experience in these aspects?
It was mostly curriculum design. So I was doing a lot of academic writing.
Right.
I was creating content for, say, the school. So one of the projects I worked on was creating English syllabus textbooks for grades 1 to 7. This is a company called Exceed. So if you've ever picked up an ICSE textbook, and if your child has done anything from grades 1 to 7, all the assignments, all the formatting of the curriculum and everything. That so I have actually a lot of a rather large role to play in that. So I worked on that for about a year. And then apart from that, I've worked with companies like NIIT, where we were developing content for some of their in-house work and things like that. What I really enjoyed about each of these projects was, number one, because it was freelance. So I had a lot of flexibility. So I could afford to take on multiple projects and work on them simultaneously, as long as they were non-conflict and they weren't really seeping into each other. That was fine. The second thing I really enjoyed was I had the advantage of working with a group of people, a team. I had a leader to report to, and I had a team of writers whom I was working with. So there was a sense of camaraderie, even without having to go into a corporate office setup. So I've actually never worked in a corporate setup, except for maybe 2 years when I worked in time in Hyderabad as a subject matter expert. So that was the only time I was actually physically going into office and coming back on a Monday to Saturday work day basis, and even that was part time. So I only offered to work 9 to 1, because I was also teaching. So I didn't want to be spending the whole day at office and also be spending the mornings and the evenings at work. That would have been too overwhelming for me personally. So I did half day of corporate subject matter expert material creation, and then I had about 2 hours in the evening and 2 hours in the morning when I would teach students face to face, when I was taking classes where I was helping them with things like verbal ability. So one of the things, or rather a few of the things that I learned, was working with a team. So that really helped. And meeting deadlines, and learning how to pace yourself when it comes to different kinds of work. So I've always been very particular, especially after my first year at work, which was very overwhelming. It kind
Mhm.
of taught me to step back and assess where I would have to spend my energies in a sensible manner. So it should not be something where I'm burning out, but at the same time, it should be something that I would enjoy doing on a consistent basis. So I think that really helped. The various experiences have kind of come together to cement that. So much later, when I was an editor with this parenting website, I was not only an editor, I was also kind of handling the social media, and I was handling a team of writers as well. So all of those previous experiences kind of came into play because I had experience in working with team leads, so I kind of knew what the expectations were. And so I feel every experience that we go through in the workspace kind of shapes our personality as an individual. So I think that is one of the biggest benefits of our various life experiences. Even if the work itself may not have been that challenging, or the work culture itself was not as wonderful as you may expect or anticipate, especially when you're very young, you have all these grand expectations. But experiences really help. The experiences help you kind of go through each of these situations. So when I decided to finally decide to launch my own business, I had a lot of these personal experiences to kind of guide me on my way and kind of set the tone for that. Yeah.
I mean, I so resonate with what you said. Well, in fact, I think even you would agree, like, if you want to start something, or you at least want to figure out, okay, you're good at something, you need to explore, you need to put yourself out there and probably
Yeah.
test the waters. I think it all begins with that. And today we're here, I mean, we're talking, of course, related to entrepreneurship or solopreneurship. Being a pruner, I think it's always evident that, you need to just put yourself out there, even if you do not know if you're good at it or bad at it. But I think exploring oneself in each of these fields, or whatever the fields be. Yeah, wouldn't you agree, Shalaja?
I would also have a small caveat over here. The only reason I'm saying this is because a lot of people decide to say pursue their passion and get into business and entrepreneurship. While there is
Mhm.
nothing wrong with that by itself, I feel there has to be a certain practical aspect before you decide to dive into business, because the business mindset is very different from an employee mindset, and I had to transition from an employee mindset to a business mindset. And one of the first things I tell people is the financial side, right? So make the choice to go into business only if you have a fallback or a financial fallback, so to speak, and budget for about a year or a year and a half of experimentation where you can do all the things that you want without really worrying about income coming in from, month one or even the first quarter. I mean, you have to be really practical about it. And
Right.
that's, I think, a very very key thing, because I hear of so many people who say that I want to quit my job and start blogging. I mean, it's not as simple as that, right? I mean, you're not going to be pulling down 5 or 6 figures in a month, the month after you quit your high paying job. I mean, yes, you may want to leave that soul sucking job if it is not giving you gratification and joy, but at the same time you also have to pay your bills, right? So I would say try to keep saving some money every month, put it towards what I would call a business fund of sorts. So you have a fallback. You have something to consider, saying, okay, I'm going to give this a go. I have a budget for 6 months. And at the end of 6 months, if this doesn't take off, I'm going to start looking for a job again. And I feel that's an important transition, both back and forth, that business owners and potential business owners need to keep in mind. So that practical side is very important. Having said that, yes, I mean, as if you are able to translate the passion for what you do into a monetizable opportunity, I feel it's definitely something worth exploring. So yes.
I agree with what you said, because the practical aspect of it with pertaining to the financial thing, I think it's so relevant and important as well. Because I have seen people who are like probably who have started startups. I think we did have the startups culture booming in, I think,
Mm,
2016, 2017. Yeah, I mean, I've been a part, and also I've seen people like, just go headway into it and then probably, realizing that this is not for them. So yes, totally agree with you on that.
yeah,
So, of course, you've been blogging for 13 years now.
right.
So, how did this journey start? And what was your experience about moving from traditional way of writing? I call it traditional way because you were into preparing course curriculum. So, and how did this transition happen from that to blogging?
I started my blog because of two people, or rather, technically, it's three people. One was my daughter. Second was my mom, who said, that you really should keep a record of, her growth milestones, and any ideas that you have about parenting, because you write well. And my husband was the person who gave me the impetus. He said, instead of doing it in a diary, why did you do it on a blog? So all these three people are really important because they are the ones who planted the seed. And it started, if you go and look at, in fact, I think the very first post on my blog is still there, why I am writing this blog. And I've deliberately not removed it, because I
Yeah.
wanted to be there to tell bloggers that this is how I started. It's literally a paragraph where I say, I'm going to be talking about my daughter, I'm going to be talking about her milestones and how she's progressing from month one to month two. It was a very casual diary entry, and that is what the blog was originally called. It was called Diary of a Doting Mom. Diary of a Mom, and then Diary of a Doting Mom. It transitioned to that. And one of the things I keep telling people is, when I was writing for, say, students or academic curriculum, the objective was very different, because I had to ensure that I was meeting certain expectations, certain targets, certain goals, and we had to quantify and measure it, make sure that students were actually benefiting from it, whether those were students in school or whether those were students in the MBA thing. So we had to do evaluations and assessments. Whereas in blogging, the mindset is completely different, right? You're writing and you're hoping to connect with people, you're hoping to find a way that will create a sense of resonance with the reader. The interesting thing is, while I was creating my blog posts, I think a lot of the resonance happened automatically, because I was effectively talking to a target audience of fellow moms who were going through something similar. So it became a very natural transition into diary writing, but then it's diary writing which is visible for the world to see. So that was a transition that I made. And over time, I kept fine tuning my work. I kept fine tuning my writing. I realized that certain pieces of writing had a better resonance than others. And then I joined a few writing workshops, and I learned from people, and they said, this is fine, but there's still too much of you in it. So there has to be more about the reader, because how do you transition from making it all about me, to more about, how this can benefit you? And when I did that, so once I transitioned over to what I my current role, which is a coach, and all my posts which I do on the blog and the articles I do on my blog are written in that vein, I still retain that important tip. That is, it should have a resonance for the reader. So even if I'm saying, if I, like, for instance, the latest post I wrote on my blog was how I redesigned my homepage, right? Now, if I'm just going to say, I look at this, I redesign my homepage, doesn't it look awesome? I'm going to be talking about myself. But if I say, this is how I redesigned my homepage and this is how you can do it too. So immediately it becomes about the reader. It's not just about, hey, come and look at my fancy homepage. It's more a question of, this is how I've done it. You can do it too. And even if you don't have a technical background, this is how I have done it. And I'm walking you through it step by step. And when I started doing these tutorials back in 2016, 2017, that's when I realized that people actually liked them, because they came and told me, I really liked your step by step tutorial. Can you do one more on a similar topic? Can you teach me how to create an Instagram landing page, for instance? Or can you teach me how to set up my Facebook business page? And it was not even something which was on the horizon, as far as my writing was concerned. It just happened as a natural transition. And then a very, very casual remark from one of my writers back from when I was the editor. She just commented very casually during one of our team meetings, and she said, have you ever considered doing this for a living, teaching people how to do social media? And I just laughed it off and I said, nobody's going to learn these things from me, right? But that kind of stuck somewhere in the back of my head. And so when I decided that it was time to move on from that job, and I love that job, I'm not going to deny that. But when I decided that I wanted to try something on my own, the transition happened very naturally. It just became something that I knew I was good at, and I knew that I would be able to help readers with. So making the transition into the business side of it became much simpler. So as you can tell, it is not something that happened overnight. I started blogging in 2007, kept fine tuning the work, and then by 2013, I got us kind of started getting a community of readers and fellow bloggers. By 2016, I started tentatively testing out, tutorials. By 2017 end is when the seed for the business kind of took root. And by early 2018, March of 2018 is when I officially launched the business. And it was only in 2020 that I actually began to see a profit. So I broke even by around end 2019, but I was really not making a profit. I was just making enough to cover the expenses, or my overheads and things like that. But in terms of profit, I would say it was mid 2020. So that's another thing I want to tell business owners, right? It's not going to be a get rich quick scheme. It's going to be something where you kind of show up and do the hard work every single day. And then at one point, you'll suddenly see the shift happening. There is that what I call the tilt. That tilt will happen when you are ready. And when you're ready to accept that there are certain things you're doing wrong, and these are the things you need to correct in order to see the profit side of the balance starting to go up.
It's been a phenomenal, I think 12, 13 years. I mean, just beautiful. And I mean, as you mentioned, I think it's just been growing over the years. And also, as you rightly mentioned, you started off with like, just putting out for yourself, writing, blogging for that. And then it shifted to the reader. I think that's just beautiful. I think that's what we as content creators do, that we just start for ourselves. Okay, let me see how this works. But then over the years, we also tend to, yes, it's of course the end user. If you can put something of value to their lives in whatever way, I think yes, I mean, it's so beautiful to listen to your journey. You mentioned that at 2017 is when you actually decided to, take on the business route for your blog.
Right.
So could you share with us, what are the steps that you took? Like, I mean, you decided, okay, I'm going to make this a business, but then what are the steps that you took so that you could start making, or at least figuring out the avenues where you can make money? So how did that happen?
Since I already had a background in teaching, I knew that if I were to start offering coaching services, even on a small scale, that would get the best response. And that's how I started. So I started by just creating a page on my website which said, I'm going to start offering social media coaching and email marketing coaching and teaching you about Pinterest and so on. And you're welcome to set up a session with me. And initially, I priced it like really low. I think I was charging something like 300 rupees for an hour of coaching and things like that, because I also wanted to ensure that whatever work I delivered would be of the highest standard. But obviously, since I was new to the online coaching space, I knew that people would be thinking twice before, shelling out that kind of money. So I started by just creating a very simple page on my blog where I said, hey, I've decided to launch this coaching business of mine. These are all the services that I'm offering. Go ahead and check it out. And since I had a very large and engaged, I would not say very large, I would say I had around 1,000 plus Facebook friends at that time. And I just put it up on my Facebook personal page saying that, I'm transitioning into this role. And that immediately got a lot of traction. On Facebook, personal posts tend to do better than obviously your business page, right? And a lot of my network at the time amplified it for me. They shared it on their social media. So a lot of people started reaching out to say, okay, if you've got about, and this was 2017, so this was around 10 years of blogging experience. So if somebody with 10 years of blogging experience is willing to give you a session, it is something you should sign up for. So this is what friends of mine did, right? And that's all I did. And as far as the business side of it was concerned, my husband helped us set up a business account. We created a company where we would be able to offer services. So he was also setting up his company at that time. So we decided to do it together. So he has a separate computer analytics firm, and then we have a combined consulting firm. So we do a lot of consulting services through this company. So that was all the technical side of it, which he took care of, and then our auditor does all the financial side of it. But I feel these are all important steps, because a lot of us just jump into business not knowing what should I do. But one of the easiest things you can do, especially now that pretty much everything is online, buy a domain of, either in your own name or in the name of the business that you want, and start creating what is called a one page website. So the one page website is effectively going to be a showcase of who you are, how you can help your readers or your subscribers or your clients or your coaching students or whatever it is. And if you've already done a few sessions, and if you have some testimonials from people who have taken your either your free sessions or any sessions which you did prior to launch, you can put those testimonials on the page as well. So I started very, very small, to be honest. I just kind of teased it out, so to speak. And the first month or two was actually pretty decent. I mean, I got a lot of people signing up. Plus, I was also offering a few free calls at that time. So those got filled up really fast. But the challenge was it was not very sustainable from the business side. So I had to, completely rework, okay, how much time can I be spending on this when I can't do free calls forever, right? And and if I do conduct calls, half an hour calls or 1 hour calls, I need to make it sustainable for me. So if I'm spending 1 hour, I'm not just spending the 1 hour talking to the person, right? I'm also creating training material which I can use to specifically help that person, because it's a one-on-one session. It's not just a group session or a webinar. So there I actually go into detail. I actually give them a Google document. I ask them to fill out an intake form. I ask them to tell me what are the specific challenges you're facing. And based on the niche that they are in, I give them specific things that they can, I give them specific action points that they can do to ensure that they actually follow through and start seeing some progress in terms of where they were and where they should expect to be 3 months or 6 months from now. That's the thing. So I think that's important. So create kind of a simple business plan. This is what I would tell people who want to launch their own business. Very simple business model. Try not to overextend yourself. Then create a single page website. So buy a domain and create a single page website, just like the home page on your blog. Create a single page website telling people what they can do. Get the financials sorted out with a professional. Get an auditor to do all the legal work, the bank work. So somebody who can help you out with that, and decide how much time you are going to be able to spend on a day to day, on a week to week, or a month to month basis on your business. And therefore, how much energy would you have left over for all the other extra work that you intend to do?
Right. I mean, perfect. Thank you, Shalaja, for those steps that you gave us. I also want to know, like, is there a need for a business to have a blog, and does it depend on the niche of the business? I know you mentioned something about the niche of the business, so I want to know, like, I mean, it could be any business per se. Is there a need for them to have a blog? Yeah, what is your perspective on that?
In my opinion, a blog is necessary only because it gives the potential clients, your readers, your existing as well as your future clients, a very clear insight into the way you work, the values that you hold dear, the systems that you are using to put things in place. So I follow this model because it's the most comfortable model for me, because my content is my calling card. A lot of my people find me through my blog, through my social media channels, and I have found that that is the most authentic way that I can reach them. So I don't do cold calls. I don't do outreach where where I feel very awkward reaching out and say, hey, I have this service, do you want to do it? Whereas when I do outreach, it is typically to somebody in my network, and when we're working on a collaborative model. But that means we're already, both of us, more or less established in our respective business practices. We more or less have the same audience size, and if I want to say send business her way and she wants to send business my way, that's the only time I actually get into a collaborative model. But otherwise, I very rarely do what I call cold outreach. I don't cold call people, and I don't push things down anybody's throats. So content is that way, and content being open source, being available for free, is very valuable. And it doesn't even have to be something very elaborate. You can start small. That's what I keep telling people. If you're not comfortable blogging, create the single one page website first, and then start putting out your ideas on social media, whichever social media you're active on, and let people know that this is what you do. So I know a lot of people, for instance, fitness coaches and life coaches and health coaches, who have very active social media brand presences, right? They have a Facebook page or they have an Instagram page. They do videos there and they share tips there. And if you go to their blog is most often only their website where they talk about their service, and it's fine. So if you're not comfortable writing a long blog post and things like that, start by having an active social media presence. But the advantage with a blog over a social media platform is you own your blog. You don't own your social media platform. So if anything were to happen to your account on social media, and remember, we're not really paying to use any of the platforms unless you're running ads. So you can't really complain if your account disappears tomorrow because you're not really paid anything. So you have no hold over that particular platform. And I always tell people this: please have your own account, please have your own blog, your own space that you can call your own, and update it as periodically as it feels comfortable to you. In fact, one of the things you can do is, those social media posts that you've been putting up, repurpose them into a blog post. So you don't have to think about something new to write. You already have the post, you already have all the material. Just rewrite it, stretch it out a little bit to, make it look like a slightly longer article. There you go. In fact, 90% of my social media content is repurposed blog content. For me, it's the other way around because I prefer to write my blog posts first and then do my social media posts. Then there are times when I test an idea on social media, see if it does well and gets a bit of traction. And if it does, then I extrapolate that into a longer blog post. So it kind of works both ways. But either way, definitely having at least some database of articles, a place that you can call your own, a platform you can call your own, is a huge benefit. So I would say, in short, yes. Sorry for the really long answer. But in short, yes. In detail, I would say start writing articles. If that is becoming too difficult, start with social media and then transition to the blog.
Great, perfect. And I want to know, like, I mean, if someone wants to start a blog, should they be like technologically sound to start off a blog, and also should have like, probably like good or excellent writing skills? What do you have to say to that?
So I would say writing skills, yes. I would not say excellent, but I would say you should have a decent grasp of the language. And if you don't have a decent grasp of the language, please hire a coach to help you figure out where are your mistakes and things like that. If you don't have the money for a coach, install this extension on Chrome called Grammarly, which kind of at least picks out the glaring errors, because a lot of us are very, very blind when it comes to our own faults. We just assume we're writing the best thing out there, right? One of the things I learned, especially when I joined these writing workshops between 2014 and 2017, I was part of a really active writing group called Year Write. They're still around, by the way. I'm not an active part of it anymore. One of the things that I did was I would write weekly pieces of fiction, non-fiction, and poetry, and get it looked over with a fine tooth comb by the editors. And you know how it is, right? You write this and you say, okay, these are the best 2300 words I've ever written. And then the editor comes back and says, why have you written this crap? I mean, what is this? I mean, why have you written this? And then it kind of humbles you. It humbles you and it makes you realize, okay, you're not really the best writer out there. I mean, there are people who are better than you. There are people who know what works. There are people who tell you that, you are doing too much of telling, you need to show more. And so what exactly does that mean? And how exactly can you improve your writing? How do you steer clear of stereotypes? Because a lot of us tend to get into stereotypes, when we're writing. How do you make your voice authentic, your own? So that's very important. So I would say, yes, to a large extent, writing skill is important. And I know some people say, don't worry if your writing is not good. But to be honest, if your writing is not good, people won't read you consistently. They may land on your blog, they may start reading you because you're a good friend, or maybe you manage to impress them with your social media posts. But if your writing is not consistently of a certain quality, you will not have a sustainable long term audience, which is what you would ideally want, especially if you're investing money in this thing, right? As far as the technological part is concerned, I would say, even if you're not completely tech savvy, I wouldn't call myself a tech savvy person in that sense. I do tend to learn on the job. So a lot of what I have done in my personal blog and maintenance, and things like that, is I've constantly tried to learn. And the advantage now is pretty much everything is on YouTube. Anything you want is on YouTube, right? You have a doubt about a specific topic, you just Google it, you find the YouTube video and walk itself through it. If you still don't understand it, there are coaches who can help you. There are people who will walk you through it. If even then you don't understand it, you can always hand it off to somebody who is technologically savvy. And there are some things obviously I would not touch. There are some things which are specializations for developers. So I'm not a coder, I'm not a developer. So I would not venture into that area. So then I have people to take care of that. So for instance, my host who manages my hosting for my self-hosted WordPress blog is pretty hands-on and pretty tech savvy. Obviously, all the engineers there are, and they are usually a click away. So if I ever run into any technological issue or glitch on my website, I immediately reach out to them on chat. I get a response within 3 seconds. They sit with me and walk me through what the problems were, and if it is something I can avoid on my end for the future, then I make a note of it. If it is something out of my hands, the tech team will take over. They will fix the glitch and then they will send me an email saying the glitch is all fixed and now you can go about it. So I would say have some working knowledge of tech, but doesn't have to be elaborate. It doesn't have to be in depth. As long as you're able to use a keyboard and use a mouse and watch things on a screen, I think that you're good to go.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree with you when you said that you don't have to be technologically sound. I mean, I learned probably with respect to creating a website and all of it, all by tutorials here and there. And also pertaining to writing skills, you clearly mentioned that yes, at least basic writing skills need to be there. You can always delve into it, and I think you always learn on the go, and you also grow as a writer. So I think it's only with time that one can get better at it. All right, so moving on. So, as a solopreneur, how do you manage to do it all? I mean, could you share with us a few challenges that you have faced way back, and also currently whatever that you're going through at this moment?
One of the things I tell people is there is no such thing as a work life balance. If you ever try to achieve work life balance, you're battling a losing game. It's as simple as that. So, what I have learned in my 3 years of being in business is that there are certain things which will take priority come what may. And for me, that is my health, my family, and my mental health. My physical health, my mental health, and my family. So these three are on top of the table, irrespective of whether I'm hitting my financial targets for that month. It doesn't really matter for me. Having said that, I think it's extremely important for not just solopreneurs, every single person today to put things on their calendar and stick to them. Because if we don't put things on our calendar, it just doesn't get done. It's a beautiful quote, right? Some day is not a day. Some day is not a day. There is no such thing. And having a clear plan and kind of executing that on a day by day basis really helps. And then there is the other side of the coin where people try to overextend themselves and pack too much into a single day. And when they're unable to do justice to all those tasks, it leads to burnout. And then then it becomes a question of, okay, I did everything that this person said, and now I'm not able to have any energy to, read a book or even relax or, go for a walk and things like that. So I think it's important that we keep our expectations and our boundaries, both of these, very, very realistic. As an example, if I'm doing an interview with you, right, and I know I'm going to be unavailable for an hour and a half, so I let people know, I let my parents know, I give them an alternative number to reach me in case of an emergency. I make sure that food is ready and on the table for my daughter if, if she needs something. Plus, she's also old enough. I mean, if she's very hungry, she can always, make something for herself. So that's not the issue, right? So I feel putting it on your calendar is very important. That's very important. So that's the first thing I want to tell people. Put what you feel are your most important tasks on your calendar and keep your boundaries and your expectations realistic. This is the second tip. And number three, ensure that you are not doing things from a space of frenzy, in an attempt to kind of, I need to finish this all. So there's this beautiful quote in James Clear's Atomic Habits where he says, instead of saying, I need to do this or I have to do this, if you just change it to, I get to do this, the entire mindset shift is amazing. So instead of getting up and saying, oh my God, I need to go for a walk, whereas you get up and you say, you put your feet on the ground and, you just give gratitude for that moment and you say, how amazing that I get to wake up in the morning, healthy, happy, feeling full of joy, and I get to put on my socks and my shoes and my headphones and I get to go out for a walk in the early morning air. I get to do this. There are people who don't get to do this, you know, and I feel that's a very important mindset shift that most people cannot do. But if they choose to do it, it really makes a very significant difference. I mean, it's like saying, right? I don't have time to work out. Interesting, but you do have time to be on Instagram, isn't it? I mean, and I'm not pointing this out as a flaw. I'm just pointing this out as a fact. It's just a fact, right? So when you say I don't get time to work out, it's not like you don't get time, you just don't want to work out. That's the thing, right? You don't want to work out. You would much rather be sitting and scrolling through Instagram and checking the latest updates on social media or getting your news feed than going out for a 15 or a 20-minute walk. So I think it all comes down to, therefore, the fourth point, which is intentions, setting the right intentions. If your intentions aren't being set right at the outset, you will always find excuses. And this particular week, interestingly, I'm attending this daily check-in with a mentor who is running this Tiny Habits program. So Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg, it's a very famous book. So BJ Fogg also runs what is called a 5-day daily check-in over email challenge. So you get assigned to a mentor and you are asked to pick three tiny habits for every single day. Just three tiny habits. And at the end of the day, you're supposed to check in with your mentor or coach, send an email saying, it's a very simple email. It will take you exactly 30 seconds to write the email. She just sends you an email saying, did you do your tasks for the day? And you're just supposed to respond with yes, 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 for three yeses for the. And if you did not, you just say yes, no, yes, or yes, yes, no. The interesting thing she tells you is, don't feel guilty. If you have a no on a particular day, don't feel guilty. Rather, go back and examine why it was that you could not do that particular task that day. So, for instance, especially in the business space, all of us are overachievers, right? We consider ourselves gold star students. So, if I need that gold star, right, I need that tick to say, okay, I've done it for the day. So, I missed one habit on one day. Okay, one habit. So, obviously, I felt really guilty about saying yes, no, yes, but I sent it because I can't lie. She got back and said, I know why you couldn't finish this habit today. This was on hump day. So Wednesday is called hump day, right? That is where typically you meet the highest resistance to a new habit. So it's normal. Okay. That's the first thing she told me. The second thing she told me was, I was going over your habits again, and looks like the second habit is a little too elaborate. Remember to keep it tiny. So I'll give you an example. So as I said, after my evening tea, I will go for a 20-minute walk. That is the habit that I created. And that day I could not go because it was raining. I could have easily walked, I mean, in the corridor, but I just chose not to, right? And then she told me, instead of that, to try this for Thursday. She said, change the recipe. It's called a habit recipe. Change the recipe to, after I have my evening tea, I will put on my walking shoes. That's all. Just say I will change it to, I will put on my walking shoes. Okay, I said, I'll remember that. And then once my alarm went off for the evening walk, I got up and I went and put on my socks and my shoes. And then my mind said, okay, you're already wearing your shoes. Why are you sitting at home? Doesn't make sense, right? So then I said, oh, you know what? Now I just have to grab my keys, take my phone, plug in my podcast, which I listen to, and go for a walk. It was incredible. So all I'm saying is, all of us fall off the wagon. Nobody is going to be perfect, 24/7, 365 days a year. It's impossible. All of us will have challenges. We will have health setbacks. We will have personal setbacks. We will have, challenges in the family, challenges on our financial end. But how we respond to each of these is a very, very important reminder of how we can grow on our personal journeys. So, out of 5 days a week, if I am able to say I managed two of those habits 5 days a week and I managed one of those habits 4 days a week, I still consider that a win.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
so I think that's a very interesting, important thing to keep in mind. And like I said, this is not restricted to business owners, right? This is expansive and covers anybody who wants to manage their time better. So put it on your calendar, set the right intention, show up, and don't rely on motivation. Motivation is the most useless thing out there. If you wait to be motivated, you will never do anything. Do not wait for motivation. Put it on the calendar, set a routine, and believe me, after some time, it will be a question of why didn't I do this habit today? Why didn't I do it today? It's automatically you'll feel that sense of mild pressure, which is good. That kind of pressure is good, right? Because it compels you to do something positive. So I feel that's a very important thing that people need to keep in mind. So set the right intentions. Don't worry about motivation. Put it on your calendar. Set the right expectations and make clear boundaries available.
Wow. Thank you for saying all of that and also summarizing it now. I really love the mindset aspect, pertaining to being grateful. I think that most of us, we just take things for granted. And when we actually, look into it, we are actually having so many things which many people don't.
Exactly.
So I really, really connect with, being grateful on each and every moment and each and every day. So yes, and also with respect to what you mentioned about the tiny habits, I mean, I would be happy if you could, share the link with me, and also I would also put, share it on the show notes as well, so that people can go out and check it out.
I'll do that.
I mean, that was really interesting. So yes, I mean, I have a follow up question to that.
Sure.
Of course, we spoke about solopreneurship. I know you are a parent, of course, or a mompreneur. So I want to know, I mean, how do you manage, of course, you said you have to set boundaries pertaining to your, household chores, or then, of course, you have the business going. So you need to give time for that as well. So what has it been? And if you could run us through your day as to how do you go about, I mean, it would be very, helpful for those, there could be women entrepreneurs out there and they're handling the house and also the work. So it would be really great to hear from you because you have been experienced in this.
So before I actually go into it, I want to remind people who are listening or watching that this is not a foolproof recipe which you can cut paste into your own life, right? This is just a template. Please remember that we are all different. We have different expectations. We have kids of different ages, very different personalities. We Some of us may be living alone. Some of us may be living with aged parents. The expectations and as far as our responsibilities are concerned, the situation is going to be vastly different. Having said that, what I've realized works for me is trying to create systems and put them in place, whether that's for my business or the home or spending time with the family. And I know that sounds like a very regimented way of living, but it isn't. All I'm trying to say is make sure that when you put something on the calendar, that time is sacred and devoted to that. So I have a 14-year-old, right? She's in grade 9. So a lot of what she does is fairly independent, but she still needs my help in certain things. For instance, let us say getting organized. So I sat with her and worked out a system where she could put her daily and weekly tasks on a Google Calendar. Now, Google Calendar is easily accessible. It's always available on the laptop. You just open it up and it pops up and you can see what you're supposed to do. So instead of saying, okay, maybe I'll do my homework at 4 p.m. this evening, and then you get to 4 p.m. and you suddenly realize, okay, you have actually a math class at that time. So that's bad planning, right? So then I tell her, okay, at the beginning of the day, I need you to look at your school schedule and tell me what are the times of day that you are actually free. And then based on that, I want you to factor in how much time you would need to work on, say, two assignments today, and maybe work on a question paper. See, again, this is only because she's in grade 9 and there's a little bit of extra academic work that she needs to do. For younger kids, I mean, you would have to kind of modify and adapt this to your specific time and your specific child and his or her needs. So I know parents, for instance, who are running their own businesses, who have a playpen or a crib or a play space in the office right next to them. So the child is like off camera, but the child is within visibility. The child gets to spend time with the mother in that sense. And every time, the mother has to get up and take a break, or the father has to get up and take a break, they can go pick up the child and soothe them and things like that. So it really depends on your schedule. For me personally, one of the first things that I do is I wake up earlier than the rest of the family. So I wake up at 5 a.m., sometimes 4:45 a.m., and I get that extra hour and a half or 2 hours completely to myself. So I'm sitting and either catching up on emails, or I'm working on an article for the blog. Being in India, I have a lot of network and collaborations across the world, right? I have people in the US, people in Australia, so I can actually reach out and connect with them. So I tend to do that. So I get up really early. Similarly, I go to bed at a reasonably early time. I mean, I'm trying to push it back to 9 p.m. if possible, but right now I go to bed around 10 or 10:15. Through the day, I have set times for different aspects. So if I know that I'm going to take an hour to prep as well as eat breakfast, I put it on the calendar. I actually put it on my calendar and I know that I'm not supposed to be doing anything else at this time. I actually need to be, cooking. If it is breakfast that I can prep and leave and, make sure that the family eats on their own, it's even simpler, right? So whereas if I'm making something in real time, like puris or something like that, obviously that requires a little more time. If it is for instance, a breakfast item which requires more than an hour of preparation as well as making and serving and everything, so I would typically keep that for a weekend instead of kind of trying to pack it into a work day. Then I'll end up getting stressed because I'm overshooting my time limit and I can't do justice to it and things like that. I have what I call complete and absolute me time. So I need time to myself. This is irrespective of getting up early and things like that. So I need time to myself to read every single day. So I again put it on the calendar. So I've told myself that every night, as soon as I finish cleaning up in the kitchen, I get to read for about half an hour. It's invariably never half an hour. It extends to an hour, and I have to keep telling myself, okay, it's time to go to sleep. But because I love to read so much, I end up reading much more than what I had originally planned. But I'm not really upset about it because it's something that I want to do, and I kind of relax and I wind down with it. Similarly, my workout time, that could be 20 minutes a day, 20 minutes of high powered walking, or 20 minutes of a strength exercise, or 20 minutes of yoga. But there is no compromise on these things. It really helps, of course, if you have family members who can pitch in and do some of the extra work. I'm really fortunate for that matter because I have a husband who cooks way better than I do. There are times when I have to attend sessions, go through coaching calls, especially some of my sessions. Technically, they're 1 hour, but if you ask any of my clients, it never stays within the 1 hour frame, right? It always spills over to an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes. So, and they have to keep reminding me, what, we're running out of time. I said, no, what, let's just keep going. So if that ever happens, and if it is close to lunchtime, right, I just know that lunch will be ready. I don't have to dial things back because I know lunch will be ready because he would have cooked it. So I feel that delegating chores, getting people to help with some responsibilities will really impact how much peace you feel when it comes to creating your content and doing things at a pace which is reasonable for you. One of the things I teach in my one-on-one calls is time management. So I ask them to give me a hour by hour breakup of their day, and then I give them specific tips, and most of them have this this light bulb aha moment, and I say, oh, I never thought of that. I check in with them a week later and I said, how did it go? And sometimes that's all it's required. You just need to give them that push and tell them this is what it is. I'm actually working on a course on time management, so maybe you'll see that soon.
Wonderful. So it's all about, of course, having a calendar, as you clearly mentioned previously as well, and set your intention to do it, be it whatever, and also giving ample time for your well-being, which I know you said that you do yoga and you cannot like forego that on any given
Yeah.
day. So yes, I think sticking to the calendar and of course giving that time, and also if there are family members who could pitch and help you out in any which way, yeah. Beautiful, lovely. So my next question is, of course, go through your posts on social media and of course your blog. And I remember that you had put something, pertaining to productivity. I think that was sometime in July 2020. So I want to understand what went through your mind at that point in time, and yeah, what made you to bounce back. I know I've not given anything to the listener as to what happened, but I want to hear it from you.
So you're talking about what caused my mental setback in terms of, or rather, what made me bounce back after that. Yeah, in terms of work.
Yes.
To be very honest, it was like I said, I had just about reached break even stage by say May 2020. I was hoping that by 2.5 years into this journey, I would actually be making some profit, and that wasn't happening. And I kind of was getting frustrated with the idea of chasing goals which other people in my niche were chasing, and all of them were talking about this apparently unattainable, 6 figure, 7 figure journey. And I knew, a part of me knew, okay, these people are all the exception rather than the rule, because we never hear about the failures, right? We never hear about the people who say, oh, I only made 12,000 rupees this month, I only made $500 this month. We only hear about the ones who say, "Oh, I made $5,000 this month. I'm on track to make $20,000 next month." And then you say, "Okay, I'm not even making $100 this month." So when is it going to be that I'm ever going to see that kind of money or that kind of thing? And I know it sounds very self-deprecating and very, it sounds like a victim mindset, and maybe to some extent it was. But I was reaching a point where I said, maybe this isn't all that it's cut out to be. Or maybe I'm not cut out to do business the way it is being presented right now. And I signed up for a couple of workshops. I signed up for a 1 month membership program, and something about it didn't sit right with me. So I said, something is wrong. So I needed to take a break. And that's what I did in mid June. I stepped back. I took a complete break from my blog, my business, my social media. In fact, I even temporarily deactivated my Twitter account. I just wanted to completely get away from it all. And I needed that time. It would call it a kind of a mental retreat. Now, obviously, we couldn't go anywhere thanks to COVID. It was a mental retreat that I needed in order to rest, reset, and rejuvenate my idea. And then I told myself, if I come back feeling that this is not meant to be, I would gracefully shut shop, announce that to everybody, and just go back to blogging the way it was. And what happened was, very interestingly, in the Bhagavad Gita, they have this, the God says this, right? As long as you are holding on to something else and asking God for something, you won't get it, right? It's only when you, and then there is that incident of Draupadi in the Mahabharata, where it is only when she let go completely, when she was not holding on to her clothes, and she let go and she lifted her hands above her head, and then she called out to the Lord, that he came to her rescue. So that is absolute surrender. So there was a part of me which said, this is surrender. This is not giving up. I think that the distinction is important to make. It's not giving up, it is surrendering to say, this is it, but do with me what you will, and I just left it up to the universe. Very interestingly, 2 days before I was planning to come back onto social media, somebody sent me a message, one of my followers. She sent me a message saying, I read this article and for some reason I thought of you. She said, I thought you'd enjoy it. And when I read it, and this was the article on why you should not be doing email marketing the way you are, and you don't have to do freebies, and you don't have to do lead magnets, and you don't have to do opt-in offers. You just have to be authentic and, write from your heart, and, people will find you. And that was by George Cow, my coach. To be very honest, it was the spark that I needed. It was the moment that kind of transformed everything for me. And when I decided to kind of completely let go of social media, I actually wrote a post on my second blog saying, I'm taking a break, I'm leaving social media, I'm not going to come back. I don't know how, for how long. I'm going to remove all my friends on Facebook. And so, I mean, not like anybody bothers about these things, right? But it's just that it's better to have it out in writing so nobody will be wondering what happened to you. So when I put this out there, that when I went and found this article by George Cow, something about the way he had written really resonated with me. And and then I started reading more of his articles. Then I started watching his videos, and then I signed up for his newsletter. George does a very interesting thing. When you sign up for his newsletter, he asks you to let him know if you have any specific challenge that you're facing. When I sent him an email, and he's a really big coach, right? I mean, you don't really expect people like that to respond. Within 2 days, I got a reply from him. I got a reply saying, probably this article would help you because I understand what you're going through, and a lot of my clients face this. And I was so overwhelmed by the very idea that somebody would take the time, their valuable time, to get back. And I started following him even more after that. You won't believe it. In August is when I actually started seeing the the needle move forward in terms of the business. I completely transformed my approach to my business. I completely stopped chasing things like outlandish page views. Even now, I get income reports from bloggers who get anywhere between 300,000 to 400,000 page views a month. I'm nowhere near that. I'm telling people right now, right? I get anywhere between 4 to 10K page views. That's on a good month. There are months when I get only 2K page views. Then I realized I'm chasing the wrong goals. I'm chasing the wrong goals because these are goals set by those people and they are happy doing it. Why am I chasing something which doesn't make sense to me? No wonder I am frustrated. No wonder I am running in five different directions. No wonder I feel that nothing is worth it. The minute I kind of stepped away from that and I started going back to what I originally loved, interestingly, writing. And I just started putting content out there. I just started blogging. I went back to Medium. I kind of revived my Medium account and I just started writing every single day. Told people on Facebook as well, I'm going to be writing every single day. No agenda, no compulsion for any of you to come visit, comment, clap, nothing. Getting back into the writing habit. That somehow sparked the joy in me all over again. And I realized, okay, I've been going through this all wrong for about 2 years. I've been following the wrong advice. Whereas if I always followed this advice from the beginning, and I'm not saying I regret it, I have a feeling it's important for us to kind of go through that phase where we realize that this road is not for us, and then when we choose this path, we do it with intention. We do it with intention and the knowledge and the understanding that not only will we stick with it, but it will actually show us our true value and the value that we can provide to our audience. George Gow has had a very major and transformative influence on the way I do my work and the way I create my content and the way I sell my courses.
Wow, wonderful. I think there's always a time that we all go through as creators that we need to take a step back and look at what we are planning to achieve, reassess where we are, not only in terms of work but also in terms of life as well.
Very true.
At times we just don't know, we're just probably going with the flow, the rat race, whatever the external situations are throwing at us. And at times we just need to, like, okay, let me just take a break, reassess how my life is. And also, of
Absolutely.
course, as you clearly mentioned your journey about how you went back and reignited that spark of why you are putting out this work. That's really beautiful.
Thank you.
So, Shailaja, could you throw light upon your new course, which is the 7-day blogging reboot? And also, if you could share to the listeners out there as to, what are the other sessions that you conduct?
Sure. The 7-day blog reboot program is something that I conceptualized in November of 2020. I ran it as a special small beta group session where I wanted people to understand that blogging is this really wonderful, enjoyable practice which you can do with a lot of happiness instead of worrying or stressing about things like page views. And when you do it from a space of comfort and joy and happiness, you end up finding your true audience. And what I tell people is, and this is the thing, right? All courses will promise you certain results. The only thing I promise you through my course, either this course or any other course for that matter, is that you will learn to fall in love with the journey itself. That means I have no control over whether you will have 500 subscribers at the end of 6 months or whether you will have 5 subscribers at the end of 6 months. There is no control either of us have on that particular metric. But I can guarantee that by the end of 6 months, if you are to show up consistently and do the work, you will start enjoying the process of creation and forget about the results that come from it. So, if you want to hear results, that's the result I promise, that you will enjoy the journey. And that is why it's very different from every other course out there, because a lot of courses out there will tell you, do this and you will see your page views rise, in 3 months, or do this, you will get 10,000 subscribers on your email list. None of this can be promised. Let's be very honest. None of us can promise that even if you follow a complete cookie cutter template as far as a particular course is concerned, what works for me may not work for you. But if you adapt what I teach to your specific niche, to your specific audience, what will happen is you will grow a target audience who is loyal to you, who will wait for the work that you do, who will listen to what you say, who will follow you on social media, who will sign up for your newsletter, and eventually end up buying products that you're selling or recommending or promoting. So that is what I teach. It's a 7 day course. Now it's wrong to actually just call it a 7 day course. I should say it's a course which is spread out over 7 days. If you have the energy and the time, you can actually do it all in a single day. Let's be honest. But the reason I recommend that people do it over 7 days is because it allows you time to process the information, do the assignment for that particular day, and come to day two or day three or day four's assignment with fresh eyes and a better perspective. This way, you aren't burning yourself out trying to finish a course in 24 hours. You have all the time in the world to take it at your pace, decide that this is what I want to do on a step by step basis. And the beauty about this course is you can take or retake this course anytime you feel stuck as a blogger. So if you feel that, okay, I'm tired of chasing page views, I want to go back and look at the 7 day blog reboot program, you'll end up doing that. You'll end up going through the motions all over again. And what will happen is each time you do it, you'll get a better and better perspective on what has to be done. So that's what the 7 day blog reboot program is about, helping you fall in love with the process of creation for its own sake and enjoy showing up and doing the work on a day by day basis.
Yes. And could you also tell the listeners about the various the one-on-one coaching sessions or the group sessions or the webinars? I think I think I just saw it in your newsletter. You have every
Right.
month you have a webinar coming up. So could you tell us more on that?
Sure. So I have one-on-one coaching sessions where you can schedule a 60-minute call with me where I walk you through your specific challenges, whether it's to do with your blog or your social media. And then I
Mhm.
create a customized template for you based on what your challenges are and how we can overcome them. That's a one-on-one call. Then I have a discovery call, which is like a 15-minute session. So suppose you're not sure whether I can help you in this specific thing. We just brainstorm and I help you figure out what you need to do. There's no tailored or customized approach here yet. This is just for me to tell you, try out these steps and see if it works for you. And typically, what happens is people who sign up for discovery calls end up setting up a one on one session. So that's the second thing. The third thing is my group coaching sessions. Group coaching sessions are typically conducted once a month, and I have a limit of 9 people. So, 9 people will get together on a call with me. I walk them through a particular topic for that month, and then with each person I help them figure out how they can adapt that particular course's learnings, that particular session's learnings, to their respective niche. It's a very customized tailored approach again, but because it is not a one-on-one session, I cannot promise a very detailed thing. I promise to address everything in as much detail as I possibly can. The webinar is something similar to the group coaching session, except that in the webinar, you don't get to see me, you don't get to turn on your video and ask me questions verbally. You get to type out your questions in a YouTube live chat, and then I answer each of those questions whenever I see them. So that's the webinar. Apart from all this, I have something called my deep dive workshops. And deep dive workshops are customized and pre-built workshops. Currently, I have these for SEO training, email marketing, Pinterest, as well as social media. Now, these are pre-built training programs, and they are typically spread out over either 2 hours or 3 hour sessions. You have to pay for them upfront, and then we do them in two 1 hour installments or three 1 hour installments, depending on what you've chosen. And as of December, I've also launched another program, which I will be talking about in the next workshop newsletter of mine. These are what I call 4 week workshops one on one. So, what this means is, let us say, Shweta, you decide to set up a session with me, but it's called a recurring workshop. So, a recurring workshop, the advantage is I get to teach you one on any topic of your choice. So, suppose there's something which is
Yes.
not there in the pre built workshop, deep dive workshops. So let us say you want a bit of social media, a bit of email marketing, a bit of SEO. So you have some kind of bare working knowledge and everything, but you want to put everything together. So then I set up what is called a recurring client appointment. I typically take only about 2 or 3 clients a month for this because I meet them every single week. And you typically get a rebate on the overall price. So instead of being charged for 4 one-on-one sessions, you will effectively be paying for 3.5 or maybe 3 sessions. So that's the pricing model. So I'll explain that a little more in detail, probably in a video or in my next newsletter. So that's called the recurring client workshop. That is more specific because it will be exactly what you need. So you can say, I have an idea about the technical side of email marketing, but I want some insight into how do you craft your newsletters. So I'll incorporate that into our training material. And then you say, I'm okay with Instagram, but I want some help with LinkedIn. So I'll talk about LinkedIn. So that's how it works.
Wonderful. I mean, that's a very nice gamut of workshops and sessions that you have. And I must say to the listeners that I have been a part of the 7 day reboot vlogging program, and also a one on one session, and also a group session, I guess. But I must tell you that all of these sessions were amazing, right to the point that it was very authentic, and I could go back and execute it. I mean, I've been blogging for over like maybe 10 years now, but I think with Shailaja and the way she approaches blogging, I think I am like truly inspired the way she does it. And also for me as a person, like I restarted, with respect to blogging in a different niche altogether at this moment. So I wanted to understand, pertaining to social media. I think I will be shortly getting into that. But I was stuck in a space where, I am putting content on the blog, but also social media. How do I do both? And, I'm doing various other things. So how do I go about it? Felt stuck, and also with a lot of courses which I think the market offers pertaining to Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest. I mean, what should I be doing? Should I be doing it all, or is it something else? So these were all the questions that I had. And I'm sure many of you out there were also wondering, what should I be putting on this social media, or should I be present in all of the platforms? Shailaja's program out here, I think the 7 day reboot, I think it's just a beautiful way where you get to connect with why do you want to put content all together to the end user. And also, Shailaja takes you through, the various social media platforms, I know, where you want to, put across your work and which is relevant for you, for your business. I think that you will only get to understand only once you go through it, and also understand from your perspective as to what is important. So yes, I think I've spoken a lot about it, but I'm so happy that I could attend this program, and it's just been amazing, and I feel very happy to put out content out there and with no stress.
Thanks, Shweta. That's really good to know.
Yes, thank you, Shalaja. And also, yes, coming to social media at the moment. So could you throw light upon the need to have authentic connections rather than pursuing number of followers on social media platforms? Because I think many of us, or many, in fact, I had a few clients out back then, and they were all talking about, okay, we need the numbers. And it was really hard to actually connect with the clients and tell them that, see, it's not with respect to the numbers, but you need to get some engaged audience out there. But yes, I mean, I think most of us as content creators, and also with respect to the clients who want to have like social media marketing for their business, they all have the thought that, yeah, more the numbers. I think that's what it is all about. So could you throw light upon that? And also, if you could also give us a few pointers on how to use social media effectively.
Social media follower numbers are never a complete indication of the whole picture, because your followers always fall into what I call are three categories, right? Your first is your network. So people like your audience, your family, your friends, all of these people, your fellow bloggers, your fellow entrepreneurs, these are your network. So they are not necessarily your target audience. Then you have a second subset of people who typically follow you because they are kind of interested in what you have to say, and maybe you're offering them something for free. So I call them the freebie seekers, which is fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being a freebie seeker, especially if you're on a tight budget and things like that. But you are not necessarily the most engaged audience. So these are what I call dabblers. They're just dabbling in your pool, and they're just checking to see, okay, is it worth actually swimming in these waters? Then you have the third subset, which is typically the smallest subset, but the most valuable subset, and that is your engaged audience. So, as an example, I have around 4,000 followers on Instagram. If I were to actually tell you, I would say about half of them are a good chunk of the audience that I want to reach. But in terms of the most engaged audience who actually also generate revenue for me by buying my product, signing up for my coaching, and things like that, I would say only about 200 people will actually fall into that category. So I'm asking people to be very realistic when it comes to understanding numbers. So when we chase numbers, when we try to, worry too much about growing our follower numbers or growing our page views or growing our number of likes on social media, one of the fundamental things we forget is whether we're actually reaching our target audience or not. And just because somebody likes a post on social media doesn't mean they're your target audience. Let's be very honest about this. So I could like a post because you're in my niche and it resonates with what I have to say. How many products do you sell due to likes on social media? One maybe. But how many products would you expect to sell through an engaged email list? 40 to 50. And I'm telling you this from my actual numbers, right? So as somebody who has a newsletter, I have a newsletter of about close to 1400 people. Now, I have a main newsletter which has 1400 people, which is my free weekly newsletter. Then I have what I call my marketing newsletter. In my free newsletter, I don't sell anything. I just provide updates. It's basically an extension of my blog and my social media presence. My targeted email marketing newsletter, where I actually tell people when you sign up for this list, I will be telling you about my workshops, my products, my courses, anything that I recommend as an affiliate. That means this is where I am selling to you. So I make no bones about it. I don't hide this in any way. They know that if they're receiving this newsletter, it means I'm selling something to them. So conversions, as we call them, conversions from that marketing newsletter, which only has around 175 subscribers, is far greater than conversions from a 4,000 follower Instagram page. So that is why I keep telling people, please don't worry about your follower numbers. Focus instead on building really authentic connections. Now, therefore, the next question would be, okay, should you only be connecting with people because they can do something for you? Not at all.
Mm.
Remember that social media is built to be social. When we create content, we should treat every single person as somebody who's extremely valuable. Not because they could potentially become a client of ours or they could potentially give us money. No, it's because they took the time to engage with your content. So that sense of honesty, that sense of authenticity is extremely important. On my daily calendar, I have time marked out every single day, about an hour, to respond to every single social media comment on my different social media channels, whether that's on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn. Now, many people would wonder, why would you spend an hour just doing this if it's not making you any money? But for me, the connection matters far more than the money. For me, trying to make people understand that what they said is valuable. So some people, especially on Instagram, ask me this: how do you keep track of all those people who send you a direct message and saying, do this, send this to me? So one, I tell them very politely, this is a link to my services page. If you want to set up a session, you're welcome to do so. Or I take my time to respond to direct messages. Like I said, just because I see a message on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, I no longer feel compelled to respond immediately. I take my time. Because the one thing I have learned to move away from is the idea of instant gratification and instant response. I think this is very important in this fast paced, instant response world. So people have to be reminded that it is okay to take your time to respond, which is why when people send me an email and then also send me a Facebook message, I tell them, you've sent me an email, give me half a day to respond because I only check my emails twice a day. I check once early in the morning and I check once in the evening. If it is that urgent, which it never is, you're going to be able to call me. If you don't have my number and you're not going to be able to call me, it's probably not that urgent. See, and none of us, I'm talking about those of us in the solo business space, none of us are in a situation where we are putting out fires. We're not doing customer service along the lines of Amazon or along the lines of Twitter support or in terms of email newsletters. So all these people have teams. So they have teams 24/7. They have a customer service representative to tackle problems, and they talk about, so all of us who are solo entrepreneurs, if we don't keep these boundaries and decide that we set aside time to respond and respond kindly, respond with intention. So even if it means you respond 3 days later, respond. That is very important. So this is the first thing I tell people when they sign up for a social media course with me. I look at their social media channels and they say, I don't get any engagement. So I tell them, you're not responding to your comments. So when people realize that they're just typing out comments and they're not getting any validation in return or any acknowledgement in return, why would they come back to comment the second time around? Isn't it? So this is the other thing, right? Some coaches will tell you, in order to get comments on your post, go and comment on 5 other posts. So I don't teach people that. I don't teach people that at all because I feel it's very inauthentic. So I say, comment on the posts where you feel like commenting. Does that mean that every single follower of mine who was an engaged audience member is commenting on every single post? That's both ridiculous and unrealistic, right? I mean, it is impossible for anybody to do that. So to have that kind of an expectation is equally ridiculous. So I tell people this. I say, please don't worry about not seeing my posts on your grid, or not seeing my updates on Twitter, or not seeing my updates on your timeline on Facebook. This is literally not a problem. If you're signed up to my newsletter, once a week you will get all the important updates in there anyway. Even that is an email. Remember, it's an email, which means it's sitting in your inbox. Look at it at leisure a week from now, 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now. There is no pressure. In fact, this is something that George Cow does, and I've started telling people as well. A lot of newsletter creators will tell you, as soon as you've signed up for it and it lands in their inbox, please drag this email into your primary inbox.
Huh.
And that's really silly, right? Because it's a newsletter. It's not a do or die situation. Why would you want it in your primary inbox is for things like, your bank sending you a notification that you've made this transaction, or somebody sending you an email saying, hey, I want to do a collaboration with you. So this is more relevant to be in your inbox. Why would my newsletter have to be in your primary inbox? It's there in the promotions tab. Let it be there. There's nothing wrong with it. So if you're saying no, if it's in the promotions tab, people won't see it, then I'm just sending it to people who are not opening it. That means they are not your engaged list. See, how do I know that a person is an engaged subscriber? If I send a newsletter, they don't find it in their inbox and they send me a desperate message. I didn't see your newsletter. Where is it? What happened to it? So I know, okay, this is a person who actually waits for my newsletter. Then,
Right.
and I say, don't worry about it. You don't see it in your inbox. I have the direct URL. I'll just send that to you wherever you sent me the message and you can read it at leisure. Ultimately, what matters that the newsletter gets read by your target audience who are actually interested in opening your newsletter. Why would you want to worry about dragging it into it? It is a pointless exercise, in my opinion, at least.
Right. All right, Shailaja. Getting back to it, I think it's more about putting out content and having authentic connections
Exactly.
rather than, of course, pursuing random, number of followers and all of that.
Very simple, Shweta. To put it in a nutshell, on social media, be social. That's it. That's it. Just be social. It's built to be social. If you're always on social media trying to sell your products, trying to talk about your newsletter, people are going to say, okay, this person only knows how to promote, so let me unfollow, mute, block, whatever. But if you're otherwise sharing valuable content, let us say that, that's why I tell people there should be an 80-20 shift, right? 80% of the content you put out there should be value based, should improve the person's life in some way. 20%, yes, as a business owner, please use social media to talk about your products, your services, your offerings, your newsletter. But don't make it, every post or every second post. Make it maybe every fifth post, every sixth post, so that people also have time to process what you're creating. They're able to understand who you are, connect with
Right.
you in some way,
Mhm.
and then decide, okay, this is a person I would want to follow. There you get a genuine follower right away. You never have to chase people, you never have to hold on to them, you never have to worry about people unfollowing you. If people unfollow you, please don't worry. I don't know how many times I have to say this, but please do not worry about people who unfollow you. People have lives. People have issues offline, and because it's got nothing to do with you, the person. So whenever
Yes.
I unclutter, it's mainly because I'm just moving into that space of business. So I want to connect with people who are in my business. On LinkedIn, I have removed over 400 connections, mostly my friends and my family who know me from birth. They don't need to be on LinkedIn, right? They're on Facebook, they're on WhatsApp. LinkedIn is a professional network. So that's the kind of thing I need people to understand. Being unfollowed is not the end of the world. It shouldn't be, it never will be. So please don't treat it that way.
Perfect. So rightly said, Shalaja. Thank you for that. And of course, be social on social media platforms.
Absolutely.
So Shalaja, I know you started this new group last month, December 2020, and I'm also a part of the group. So could you tell us more about this? It's called as WESG, which is Women Entrepreneur Support Group. So could you tell us more about it?
So the Women Entrepreneur Support Group is something that actually four of us women entrepreneurs decided to come together and create. And women entrepreneurs to kind of support each other, kind of navigate through the challenges of entrepreneurship, especially when they're starting out in their journey or when they hit a roadblock and things like that. We're actually in the process of formalizing it to some extent, and I'll be sharing more details in my specific newsletter about that with my support group. So we are planning to have people, other entrepreneurs, come and speak to us. We're planning to have a membership fee which will kind of roll over month after month. This is something that we wanted to do because I noticed that there are lean in groups, on LinkedIn and other things, but there was nothing exclusively for women entrepreneurs. Lean in is mostly corporate and entrepreneurs mixed. It's basically, anybody in the women in the workforce kind of a thing. But we wanted something which should be something where we could not only talk business, but we could also talk about challenges that we face as women entrepreneurs in terms of managing house and home while also running a business and things like that. So that's it's basically in its infancy, but we're hoping to kind of sustainably grow it through 2021.
Awesome. I mean, that looks very interesting, and I'm sure many people join in. All the who want to be entrepreneurs, especially women, and of course, those who are already doing and in the business. I think it will be a wonderful opportunity to network with fellow entrepreneurs. That's amazing. All right. So, coming to my last question. So, especially during this time, well being is of utmost importance. I know that you value mental well being because you've been through certain experiences. So, what is your workout or well being routine like, and what do you indulge in apart from work?
As far as a well-being routine is concerned, I meditate in the morning for about 5 to 10 minutes as soon as I wake up, and that kind of sets the tone for the entire day. So that's kind of a non-negotiable part of my day. So I feel meditation is important for all of us, not just business owners and entrepreneurs. It's something which I feel will help us set our intentions for the day, for the week, the month. Meditation is an important part. And for mental health to be at its optimum performing potential, physical health is extremely important. That is why I tell people work out for 20 minutes a day. 20 minutes is more than enough. Any kind of 20-minute cardio activity per day is enough to ensure. And the endorphins that are released due to working out, either through yoga or strength training or walking or a game of badminton, is not something you can get from supplements, off a shelf. It just doesn't work that way. So these are natural supplements, these endorphins, you're getting your heart rate up, and you're setting your body up for success for the long term, to be able to tackle so many things. So I think physical health is a very important component of mental health, and that's something that, like I said, it's non-negotiable, has to be an integral part of my day, and something that I recommend other people make time for as well. As far as other indulgences are concerned, I read a lot, and I got back to excessive reading in 2020. So even though 2020 may have been a very forgettable year on many counts, it's also been a memorable year as far as reading is concerned. And this may surprise people who have known me for the longest time, but I actually started cooking a lot more. I never really used to enjoy cooking, but I started loving to cook, experimenting in the kitchen and things like that, these past 6 months, especially. Because my husband has always been the experimental chef. I would be happy, eating whatever he dishes out. But now I've gotten into that space where I'm, trying out different things. And the third thing I do is I actually watch 40 minutes of TV every day. So I watch an episode of any, drama or comedy or something, and I stick to one episode because I don't want to binge watch, and I don't want to get into that space of thinking, okay, well, I don't want to fall prey to that trap of, next episode is ready to play. I think it's slightly easier for people like us because we've grown up in a time when there was no TV. Forget Netflix, right? So and we used to wait. We used to wait 1 week for the next episode to come and things like that, right? So it's easier now, but yes, I make time for these three or four things pretty much every day. Plus, once a week, I have a community singing program where I actually teach people bhajans and light music. Yeah, so I do that as well. So I believe that staying mentally and physically active is a very important part of an entrepreneur's life, especially because you're also juggling so many other things. But to be honest, anybody's life, these things are important. So do one thing for your mental health, one thing for your physical health, one thing for your intellectual health, and one thing for your spiritual health. I think these are all important for people to keep in mind as far as long-term benefits are concerned.
Absolutely. Thank you, Shalaja, for that. And also, I'm so happy that you're engaged with a whole lot of things, array of things. So it's just wonderful to know that. All right. So we come to the last section, which I call as the pruner spotlight section.
Okay.
So I'm going to run you through a few questions, random. It could be personal on the personal level or the professional level.
Hmm.
So you could answer to me in a word or two or a couple of sentences. So it's totally left up to you.
Okay.
Okay. So do we get started?
Absolutely.
All right. So my first question is, what is your ikigai? So ikigai is nothing but the reason for your being. So what is that one thing which you do no matter what on any given day, no matter what is happening around the world as well?
Writing.
Perfect. Oh, I know you would have a lot of things to say for this, but any book which inspires you.
Like I said, yeah, there are so many books, but if I had to pick just one book, it would be Atomic Habits by James Clear.
All right. Perfect. Okay. Any person who inspires you on your journey as a solopreneur.
George Cow.
All right. Okay. Perfect. Hypothetically, if you turn out to be the richest person in the world tomorrow, what would you like to do? Or would you continue to do what you're already doing?
I would continue to do because I don't think money is the motivation for my work anymore. I would not lie and say it never was, but it isn't anymore. So if I make a lot of money, I'm not going to say no to it, obviously, but I would continue to do what I do. I would continue to write, I would continue to create, I would continue to connect with people.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right. What is your idea of well being in business and personal life?
For this, I would say find your center, if that makes sense. Find your center, find what matters the most to you on a personal as well as a business level. Once you do that, it becomes very easy to show up and do the work every day. So find your center.
Perfect. All right. What is your definition of success?
Going to bed every night happy with the way I spent my day.
Wow, wow. It's as simple as that, isn't it?
That's it.
Perfect. Awesome. All right. So my last question is, what is that one key takeaway or learning which you want to give to the audience? And the audience here, of course, are pruners who would want to know, who could be just starting off a business or want to get into this space altogether. What would you like to tell them?
One takeaway and one learning I have come to is do whatever you do from a space of authenticity, and do it because it gives you the most ultimate joy, and it gives joy to your clients as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for that, Shailaja. And lastly, how can one reach out to you?
So I'm available on all the social media channels. I'm sure Shweta will put the links in the show notes below. But for now, you
Yes.
can check out my blog, shailajav.com. And I'm available on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and of course on email. I look forward to connecting with all the listeners of your podcast.
Yes, absolutely. And I would like to thank you for this amazing and insightful session. And I'm so glad that I could do this and have you out here on my show. And thank you again for all the insights and information that you've given us, and also spoken about solopreneurship and also on women entrepreneurs and also pertaining to mompreneurs. So that's a wide audience that we have covered today. And again, thank you. It's been such an honor to have you out here. And thanks for your time, Shailaja.
Thank you, Shweta. This was really a very, very nice opportunity for me. Thank you for considering me for the podcast. I wish Preneur Diaries great success going forward. May it grow to greater and greater heights.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that. And it's just amazing to have you.